Hello everyone, back again with Story Recap. Before we get to storyline, I wish all happy and great day. Hey, today I'm going to recap the drama movie called Gemma Bovary. Spoilers ahead? Watch out and take care. The film opens with a person named Martin, who worked as a baker. He returned to Normandy 7 years ago to manage work in his father's bakery after working in a printing press. We discover that he was reading a lot of novels. He is now looking to settle in France. After that, he went to his English friend and neighbor Charles. He found him burning clothes and some of his wife Gemma's belongings. Among those things were her diaries, so Martin took the diaries without Charles noticing. At night, he started reading Gemma's diary. He began to discover the details of her life and marriage. Charles and she were extremely happy on their wedding day. She loved him and his fun personality, but she got angry when he talked to his ex-wife, who called him daily. So because of that, the couple decided to move to Normandy away from Charles's ex-wife. That day, Martin received them and got to know his new neighbors. During lunch, Martin told his wife that he was surprised because the couple's names were the same as the people in Flaubert's novel. The next day, the couple came to the bread shop run by Martin. Gemma was happy to be in France. Then they met a French woman and her English husband, and she decided to buy a lot of bread. After that, he met her near the house and started talking to her, and then took her on a tour to show her the area. One night, Charles came to Martin and asked him for help because the electricity had broken down in his house. Indeed, he repaired the electricity. They thanked him and invited him and his wife to have a drink with them. Meanwhile, Martin is infatuated with Gemma, while his wife and Charles were exchanging conversations. As days passed, Gemma became upset because their house was old and there were a lot of mice in it. Later, she went to buy bread. There, Martin took her into the store to show her how they made French bread. She started preparing the bread and he looked at her carefully. He felt confused by her beauty. Later, Gemma met the woman married to a Frenchman in a bread shop. They invited her and her husband to come to their house. Indeed, they, along with Martin and his wife, went to the Englishman's house. After that, the French woman brought Gemma into the house. She brought her into the room containing the sports equipment. She also told her that she was overweight and advised her to exercise. She actually started exercising, and one day she met Martin. He asked her why she didn't come to buy bread. She told him that she adheres to a healthy diet. He told her that he also sells healthy bread. Suddenly she screams because she was stung by a wasp. He started to help her, and it turned out that the sting was caused by a bee, not a wasp. He tried to get the poison out of Gemma's back by sucking it. But suddenly a young man named Herve came and saw them, and before Martin could explain the matter to him, she lost consciousness. Herve and Martin took her to the hospital. It turned out that she had had an allergic attack. She thanked Martin and went home. Later, her French friend came to visit her and her husband. She brought a magazine with her to show her a certain color, but Gemma saw in the magazine a couple, Patrick and Pandora, but they had separated recently. It turns out that Patrick is her ex-lover, and she is surprised. Later, Martin saw her and was watching her while she was walking around the local market. He saw her meeting Herve by chance. The two looked happy as they talked. Then we see her in a state of activity. Later at the supermarket, she also met Herve there. He invited her to visit his palace. Indeed, she went to visit him in his palace. She was amazed by the beauty of the place. By chance, Martin was there and saw her entering the palace. He kept waiting for her to come out, but she was late. He discovered that she was in a relationship with Herve. In the evening, they all gathered together. As usual, Martin was staring at Gemma and not paying attention to the others talking. Later, he met Herve by chance. He heard him talking on the phone with a girl and calling her my love. So he asked him to bring his girlfriend to live with him to help him during his studies, because Herve is studying these days. Minutes later, he noticed Gemma going to Herve's mansion. The two fell in love and were making love. The next day, Martin asked her about Charles. She told him that he was in London on a business trip. She forgot the toast while she left, so he went later to give her bread. He found her with her lover, Herve, at her house making love. He was angry that she was cheating on her husband with this young man. At night, Martin is distracted because he does not know how to react. He is reluctant to tell her husband or confront her with the truth. After Charles returns from London, Gemma still goes to her lover, Herve. She changes her clothes before going to her lover. She entered the palace and started making love with Herve. While making love, she accidentally dropped a statue. Herve felt tense and angry because this statue is very important to his mother, and if she knew about it, she would be angry with him. But Gemma told him that her husband would fix him because he could do it. She agreed with Herve to go to London together. When Martin learned that she would travel to London, He feigned surprise, but in fact, he knew that she was planning to go with her lover, Herve. Gemma loved Herve so much that she was willing to risk her married life for him. Martin believed that Herve would abandon Gemma because the events of their relationship were the same as the events of the novel he read. Indeed, she receives a message from Herve telling her that he has abandoned her. Exactly the same events in the novel are repeated. She decided to go to the palace, but before she arrived, he sent her a text message telling her that he could not go with her to London. Herve's mother was in the palace and was angry because the statue had broken. He told her that he sent it to someone called Charles to fix it. So she went to Charles to get the statue back, but Charles told her that he did not have any statue of her or her son in his possession. She was surprised by this and thought that Charles wanted to take the statue for him because the statue was expensive. She gave him her card and asked him to contact her if he knew anything about this matter. In the evening, Charles told his wife about the statue and the woman who accused him of stealing it. At this moment, she decided to talk to him and tell him the truth, but he was angry with her and her behavior in the previous 2 months, so he refused to talk to her and decided to leave for London. The next morning, Gemma received a letter from Herve's mother's lawyer, demanding that she return the statue, or else she would be dealt with differently. Martin helped her read the letter because her French was not good. She also asked him to write a letter. Martin was nervous because of Gemma's beauty. Suddenly, she screams loudly because of the mice. Martin gets rid of the mouse. When he went into the kitchen to throw the mouse in the garbage, he found that she had arsenic. He became very angry with her because in the novel, the girl committed suicide using arsenic. He was worried that Gemma would do the same and kill herself. A few days later, she went to her French friend's house, but the surprise was that she found her old lover, Patrick, there. He asked her to get back together and tried to get close to her, but she refused. Later, she asked Martin to accompany her to the cathedral, but he noticed that she was late, so he left the place. He noticed that her car had broken down and that Patrick was with her. Patrick approached her, and she did not stop him. Martin was shocked by this, but in the restaurant, it became clear that she did not want to return to him and asked him to stay away from her. After that, she started collecting things to sell and leave the country. By chance, she found the statue repaired in her home. She discovered that her husband was the one who did this. She called him and apologized to him. She told him that she missed him and that she wanted to see him again. Then she went and apologized to Martin as well because she made him wait for her and she didn't come. She invited him to have something to drink at her house. As he entered, he noticed that she was selling household items. She told him that she was doing this to pay off debts and bills. We then discover that Martin was the one who sent the messages to Gemma and that Herve did not send her the message in which he told her that he had abandoned her. He told her that he was afraid that the same events in the novel would happen to her. Gemma told him that she was not the same girl in the novel and that she would not kill herself because of some debt. She asked him to leave these thoughts in his head, but he was skeptical about it. To his surprise, she gave him a kiss before saying goodbye. The next day, he prepared bread especially for her and placed it in front of her door. After that, Patrick came to her again and asked her to resume their relationship, but she refused and told him that she preferred to stay alone. Later, Charles returns, but suddenly Martin hears Charles calling for help because his wife has died. After the ambulance arrived, it turned out that Gemma had eaten bread and it got stuck in her throat. So Patrick was trying to save her. When Charles arrived home, he thought she was cheating on him. So he beat Patrick, so no one could save her, and she died. In the memoir, she decides to sell the house and move back in with Charles to start a new life. Until this moment, Charles did not know that his wife had cheated on him with Herve, so he stole her diary. After 6 months, another girl came and lived in the same house where the English couple lived. Martin also started to recognize her,